All right, so it looks like attendance is kind of slowing down. So I just want to first say good evening, everyone, and thank you all so much for taking the time tonight to sit in and learn some of the upcoming changes that we have to our freshwater fishing regulations here in New Jersey. My name is Kristen Maestrel. I'm the new assistant director with New Jersey Fish and Wildlife, overseeing freshwater fisheries and wildlife management. Now, before we jump into the presentation, I just want to give some highlights of the past year and then also some of the things that you can expect for 2025. And so this year, fishing license sales were up nearly 5%, and trout stamps were up about 2.5% from last year. And so that's really exciting. You know, that says to me that more and more people are getting outside and enjoying the outdoors, getting involved in freshwater fishing, and we just hope that that continues to move in that same direction over the next couple of years. We're also very excited to announce some changes to the 2025 Buddy Fishing License Program. Now, we made some edits to the language, which kind of allows this program to do what it was intended to do, which is recruit new people into the world of fishing and outdoor recreation. Now, through this program, when a returning angler and up to 2 new anglers purchase a Buddy Fishing license together, those customers will receive a substantial discount. Now, a returning angler is someone who has purchased at least one New Jersey resident or non-resident fishing license in the previous 5 years, and a new angler is someone who has either never purchased a New Jersey fishing license before, or someone who has had at least a 5-year lapse of purchasing their freshwater fishing license. Now, this is a great way to introduce friends or family into freshwater fishing and kind of get them introduced into some outdoor recreation, get them outside, and you can learn even more about this program by visiting either our website or checking out the latest Freshwater Fishing Digest, which is available now. We're also very excited to announce that we hired a biologist to serve as our statewide aquatic invasive species coordinator, Samantha McQueston. She will implement the New Jersey Aquatic Invasive Species Management Plan and coordinate efforts to monitor, manage, and prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species, which can include anything from fish, crayfish, mussels, snails, reptiles, plants, and more. Now, tonight, we are very excited to present some of the proposed changes to the fish code for the 2026 season, which will be the main focus of this meeting. And so our goals with some of these changes were quite simple. Number 1, protect the resources. Number 2, provide opportunities. And number 3, simplify regulations whenever possible. And now we'll also be hosting 2 additional virtual meetings in the next couple of months. The next one will be held on Thursday, February 20th, and we'll focus on warm water and cool water fisheries management in New Jersey. And the last will be held on Tuesday, March 11th, and will be our annual trout meeting, where we will hear about Pequest Trout Hatchery, our trout stocking program, along with some updates on our wild trout resources. And so with that, I'd like to introduce and hand it over to Shawn Crouse, our Bureau Chief of Freshwater Fisheries. So take it away, Shawn.
Thanks, Kristen. I appreciate it. So I'm really looking forward to this meeting tonight. Shawn Crouse, Bureau Chief of Freshwater Fisheries. We've been doing these meetings a long time. We view them very positively. A lot of work gets done, on behalf of the angler throughout the year. This is typically a time to showcase those things. Provide information on program changes, and most importantly, get feedback from you, the angler. So as we get started, I just want to let everybody know that we do have quite the panel of Fish and Wildlife staff on this call tonight. We have all of our fisheries biologists, hatchery managers, and throughout the presentation, they will be made available to answer questions that either Kristen or I can't. They have a lot of institutional knowledge. They work very intimately with the resource, and they're a great asset to all of us, including you, the angler. So as we get started, I'm just going to go over a couple, I guess what we'll call like housekeeping. So I'm going to turn my camera off and switch over to my, my presentation. So as Kristen mentioned, this is the first of 3 virtual meetings. In the past, these meetings used to be held in person, and they were great, a lot of great interaction, good conversations before, during, and after. And then once COVID hit, we switched to the virtual option. And although it might be a little less intimate, there's a couple real benefits that we saw, which is why we decided to continue virtually. First, we're doubling and tripling the angler participation, which I think is really important. We want to get feedback from as many folks as possible, and we feel like we can cast a wider net by going virtually here. The other aspect is, and as a reminder, the meeting is being recorded. So this provides the opportunity for folks who can't quite make it tonight, or those who don't feel like taking notes. You can go back to our website at a later date, and you can rewatch or skip to your favorite part of the presentation. As Kristen mentioned, there's 2 more coming up. So we thought it important to differentiate between the 3 meetings. So we can stay focused on what's most important points at hand, but more importantly, it provides an anglers the opportunity to say, hey, like tonight we're talking about fish code changes. So we have a detailed presentation, very excited about some of these changes. And I do ask that your questions stay relevant to the specific things that we talk about here tonight. If we finish in a timely manner and there's some time at the end, we can open it up to broad general questions. And if you're a warm water or cool water enthusiast, the February 20th meeting is definitely the one for you. And the annual trout meeting there on March 11th. Once again, there are more details, about the Bequest Trout Hatchery, the way we allocate trout, and some ongoing projects. So once again, just a reminder, when the time comes, you'll see a slide that says questions, and that's the time where you'll have the opportunity to raise your hand using the icon on the bottom of your screen there, and we will go through the raised hands and we'll entertain those questions. Okay, so getting into the fish code, here's just a general timeline so you can see where we're at. These proposals were formulated over a number of years based on the data that we collect, public meetings, interactions with anglers, broader conservation goals, and what we're at now is we've formulated some proposals. Those proposals went to the Fish Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Fish and Game Council, and those were approved on 8/15/24. Those same proposals were brought to the full Fish and Game Council for vote, and they were approved on October 8/24. Recently, in mid-December, we did what we call a DEP launch meeting. That was making these proposals broadly aware throughout DEP, so they could be kind of vetted, understood for as this progress moves forward. And what's highlighted now is our virtual public meeting. One thing I want to point out is this is like a real great first opportunity for you to hear these proposals. And I just want to say that this is not the official public comment period. That is an official process that'll begin after a public hearing early this summer. And those official public comments should close at some point mid-summer of 2025. So, but for now, it's really important for us to spread the word and for you to give that feedback. But I just want to reiterate that your comments tonight are not, they're not like officially being reported as part of the as part of the administrative code process. And then the goal is to have these adoptions in place by December of 2025. So when the new year is upon us in 2026, these changes will go into effect. The first of which is very simple. It is regarding opening day. In the past, opening day of trout season It typically happens, in early April, but a lot of things were considered over time, such as, you know, temperature of water, neighboring states and their timelines and when their opening days are, even like the Easter holiday. But in essence, to make things like more simplified and provide consistency, we're actually doing the same thing that the state of Pennsylvania is doing, and we're just going to switch opening day consistently to the second Saturday in April, rather than wonder when it's going to be. Is it going to be the first, the second, the third Saturday in April? This proposal is making that clear. We don't want to go too early in the season when it's too cold and kind of miserable for people. So we ruled out, the first Saturday in April. We didn't want to go as deep into April as the third Saturday because primarily due to our 7-week of in-season stockings, we felt as if we pushed it back, the tail end of that spring stocking season would get too deep into May. And as many of our stocked waters begin to warm to a point where that just wouldn't be a great option for us. The next portion of this proposal is something that I really hope everybody's going to get behind, and this is about providing opportunity. We currently stock rainbow trout in 87 lakes and ponds across the state, and this proposal is adding 22 more small ponds to our trout stocking program. By small, we're generally talking about waters of less than 6 acres, and we wanted to put a focus on stocking waters in highly populated areas. Many urban centers within New Jersey don't have a lot of outdoor recreational opportunities, such as hunting and fishing. So we wanted to, try to bring the product to a clientele who doesn't typically have those opportunities. Some of the other criteria that we looked at were we wanted to make sure there's good access to these ponds and parking and at times, some facilities and amenities. This proposal is also looking to, we'll say, kind of start slowly, and we're just looking to stock these 22 new waters during the preseason. The plan would call for approximately 5,000 trout, which in the grand scheme of things is not a large number. This was done kind of strategically, not to take away from our existing program. So one question that you might have is, well, if we're adding 22 new ponds, how is that going to affect the place that I currently fish? And when we looked at the numbers, it's really not going to. There's little to no change, and in many cases, 0 to 1% change in the fish, in the total number of previous allocations. And really getting to the heart of it is, why are we looking to do this? It's about providing opportunity. Small ponds typically have higher catch rates. So, we could take the same 5,000 trout, stock them in a large reservoir or in a large river, and chances are your return rate on those fish are going to be incredibly low. When we stock these trout in the small ponds, in many cases, you could argue it's like fish in a barrel, but that's kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for these trout to be utilized for rapid harvest by as many people as possible. So yeah, it's clear that these small ponds have typically have really good catch rates, and we look at a high rate of return as a success of the program. A happy angler is someone who's going to go out next time and continue their passion. And then one final point is that over the years, we've actually dropped more waters, individual waters and or stocking points due to lack of access. We've dropped more than we've gained, within the last decade or so. So this is kind of an opportunity to kind of bolster the program. And since stocking points and waters have been dropped in recent years, you could say that the 570,000 trout that are in our spring program, essentially we've been stocking individual waters at kind of higher densities. So this allows these fish to be better utilized. You're probably wondering where those 22 waters are. So here are a couple of maps and a list. A couple things to point out. The heat map that you see there, I don't have a key on it for you, but it's basically looking at population density within the state, with the reds and oranges of being the most populated areas. Keep that in mind when you look at the map to the right. They're color-coded dots, and I'll explain. The gray dots represent the gray dots and the gray lines represent our existing trout stocking program. So you can see we stock every county, pretty good distribution of sites. As you'll see, within southern Jersey, within the Pinelands, there's less population density, there's less suitable waters, and therefore there's less points. The additions, the 22 small ponds that we're looking at, are represented by the blue dots. And although it's not a perfect match, there was a great attempt to add waters that would correspond with the heat map on the left there. So we're trying to add waters where the people are. You'll hear about it a little bit later in the presentation, but there were additional 2 waters that we're looking to remove from the program at this time. So I'm going to take the time here to kind of go through and just mention each pond in case you're not familiar. We're hoping that some of them you are very familiar with. But as we get going, and we're going to do this by region, Atwater Pond, this is a Fish and Wildlife owned small pond located on the Black River Wildlife Management Area, Chester Township, Morris County. It's 1.6 acres. There's good shoreline access now, but we're looking to improve that as we're adding it to the program. So we'll have good access points, cut within that vegetation, and we're going to expand the parking. Best Lake, this is owned by Watchung Borough in Somerset County. It's 4.2 acres. There's a walking path around it. The borough does fishing programs nearby, so that's a really nice relationship to see, that they're supportive of fishing. And on some of these, you might see a note at the bottom that references current regulations that were not necessarily compatible with a put and take trout fishery. I should have mentioned earlier, I'm taking for granted that most of you anglers, know and understand that these small warm water ponds do get very warm in the summertime, and we're not going to see any holdover capability of trout in these waters. So that's why we want to see a rapid harvest, rapid catch and harvest of these fish. And some of these ponds currently or previously had some regulations that were catch and release, and that's really not the viable management strategy. You don't want to mandate catch and release in a water body that's going to warm to the point where the trout are going to succumb to the summertime conditions. The next one is Bissett's Pond, or AKA Ed A. Krakowski Park Pond. This is owned by South River Borough, Middlesex County. Once again, approximately 2 acres, and it has a lot of the common features what we're looking for. This one in particular, I think, is representative of kind of the lay of the land. We're looking for parking. We're looking for adjacent activities such as ball fields or playgrounds that might bring people, to the pond. So, maybe a family is there watching a baseball game, and brother or sister or grandparents are kind of, getting a little bored by the end of the baseball game. They want to go down and try their hand at fishing. They have that opportunity right there. And this one was really nice because there were no other trout stock lakes or ponds within 6 miles. Cedar Brook Park Pond in Plainfield City, Union County, owned by Union County. They've got a really great park system where they take care of things very well. They're very friendly to anglers. And this is a nice opportunity in an already, a popular county for fishing ponds. Daly's Pond, South River Borough, Middlesex County owns it. 2.5 acres. Once again, good parking, good shoreline access. You can fish all the way around this. Deer Path Park Pond. Those of you from the area might say, well, how are you going to stock it? Because there's no pond there. You would, in fact, be correct. The dam at Deer Path Park Pond blew out a number of years ago. It failed, complete failure of the earthen dam. But Hunterdon County Parks is working on reconstruction. We don't have an exact timeline, but they will be dredging and rebuilding the earthen dam to have to once again bring back that small pond. The photograph there was probably from 15 or 20 years ago. We were doing some electrofishing for this electrofishing demonstration for this youth group, and you can see the nice largemouth there that we're holding to show to those kids. So this is one that we're obviously not going to stock right away. We're subject to the timeline of the dam reconstruction. DeMott Pond. This is in Clinton Town, 3.5 acres, right along the Route 78 corridor, easily accessible. Some residential area nearby. John F. Kennedy Park Pond East. There are 2 ponds in the property. We're looking to stock the one to the east. Owned by Saraville Borough, Middlesex County. There's not a lot of other trout fishing opportunities nearby. As you can see, people fish this pond. They have some events there currently. And this is another one that we're excited about. Wargo Pond. This is a unique situation. This pond in Hopewell Township, Mercer County, is owned and managed by the Watershed Institute. So there's a large environmental education center just adjacent to this pond. So it really provides a great opportunity to kind of synergize with issues of water quality, habitat, fishing, and overall ecology of the area. There's a really nice tie-in and support system there. This pond was experiencing a failure a number of years back. I would put it in the ballpark of 6 or 7 years ago, maybe. The earthen dam and attached culvert there failed, and there was an emergency fish salvage that took place. Since then, the pond has been dredged, and the repairs have been made, and the water is back up. Moving on to the Passaic region, Carteret Park Pond. This is one right in the middle of a very densely populated area. Lots of amenities, easy access, and about 2 acres. Cooper Pond, owned by the Borough of Bergenfield, Bergen County, 3.6 acres. This is definitely a little oasis within an urban area. The landowner, the borough, mentioned future plans of work to dredge the pond, and there is no timeline on that, but we do like to see those improvements in the works. We like to see that investment of the municipality or the county in the waterway, so we know that they're improving access and habitat and that they're friendly to fishermen. Grover Cleveland Park Pond in Essex Falls Township, Essex County, another small one. About 100% of the shoreline is accessible, and once we get this small, it should really present itself with some very high catch rates. Hughes Lake, owned by the city of Passaic, Passaic County. You can see the infrastructure from the aerial there, nice walking paths around it, a highly used park. The park was dredged and improved during 2016-2017. Wooddale County Park Pond, Woodcliff Lake Borough, Bergen County. This is located near Mill Pond, which some of you may know has been part of our program, part of our trout stocking program, but due to excessive siltation that had occurred, Mill Pond had been suspended for the last approximately 4 or 5 years. Good news is that Mill Pond is likely to be dredged, and when that happens, we'll put it back into the trout stocking program. But in the meantime, and to continue, this Wooddale County Park Pond will be added to the program. Up to the upper Delaware region. Not many additions up here, as there are already quite a few trout fishing opportunities within the northwest portion of the state. Freeland-Heising Forest Preserve Pond, owned by Freeland-Heising Township. Once again, great parking. They have a fishing dock. Lafayette Park Pond, Lafayette Township, Sussex County, just under 2 acres. A very accessible pond for shoreline fishing. Once again, playground, parking, beach area, pavilion. And another unique thing here is that this provides, within the same parking lot, you can also fish the Pollenskill River. So you want to fish moving water or still water, you can do that all from one location. Lower Delaware region, Edgewater Park Pond, Edgewater Park Township, Burlington County. This one might be the winner for the smallest at 0.85 acres. It's a nice little pond that there's been a lot of recent improvements to. You can see that brand new fishing pier. They've installed fountains. They've done a lot of landscaping, providing parking and a nice little trail to kind of reward that local effort. There was a fishing derby that was well attended last year, and we stocked it with some more warm water fish. Great little opportunity when one previously didn't exist. Northern Community Park Pond, owned by Bordentown Township, Burlington County. Once again, I think the photo speaks for itself in regards to the access. And this one's kind of neat because former Fish and Wildlife employee and deceased James O. Ross, he was such a dedicated employee and ran derby programs there for so long that they actually dedicated the pond. Stacy Park Pond down in Trenton, Mercer County, 2.1 acres, very densely populated area. This is a great location where we've worked with NJDEP to host successful fishing programs there and derbies over the years, and we thought that adding trout to that location would continue to provide that nice early season opportunity. Tippins Pond, Pennsauken Township, Camden County. This one here has seen some recent improvements as well. Fountains, a fishing pier, improved walking path, and the township has a whole suite of other improvements that they're looking to make. Atlantic Coastal Region, Corliss Park Lake, Ocean Township, Ocean County, 7 acres. Yeah, this is a little bit on the larger side, but still should provide a great opportunity. This is within the township recreational area. Good parking, good shoreline access. And finally, Patriot Lake, Galloway Township, Atlantic County. This one also, a lot of amenities here, good shoreline access, a fishing dock, etc. And we recently stocked it with channel catfish and largemouth bass in 2024. So that concludes the addition of the 22 waters. But with everything gained, sometimes there's things lost. So the only 2 waters we were looking to drop were Colonial Lake in Lawrence Township, Mercer County. It's a 25-acre pond that, quite frankly, just hasn't performed well over the years. It's 25 acres. It's allocated with nearly 1,400 trout, and anglers have reported very poor catch rates. We've conducted opening day angler counts at this water body, and in most years, 0 trout are caught within the first 4 hours of fishing. We also did an online survey last year where we asked folks that fished specific waters to rate their level of satisfaction. 50% of the 22 people that claimed to have fished Colonial Lake for trout, 50% were either unsatisfied or very unsatisfied. So this is an example where we think we can reallocate those fish to some other waters, hoping to improve angler satisfaction. And the final removal is a very small stream that flows into Swartzwood Lake, known as Neldon Brook. It only required 300 trout, but there were some access changes in recent years. It was very poorly attended by anglers, and it's one that is being recommended to be dropped from the program. With that, this brings us to a great point to stop and allow anglers to ask questions. So what we're going to do here is, if you have any questions, please keep it pertaining to what we've talked about within the first half hour of this program. But you can use the tool in the bottom corner, left corner of your screen, to use the raise your hand icon. So if you have any questions, please raise your hands now, and we will go through and offer you the opportunity to ask. Moving along, we have some other. This is possibly one of the changes that we're most excited about, and this is removing the preseason closure on all trout stocked lakes and ponds. What this does is it provides opportunity. So for the 3 weeks prior to opening day of trout fishing season, we've traditionally closed all waters for 3 weeks. This is to provide ample time for stocking, build the suspense for opening day, and in recent years, we've kind of tinkered around with some different options related, kind of in response to COVID, where we were, kind of stocking differently and opening things up for immediate fishing, rather than have a concentration of anglers during COVID. There were some mixed reviews on that, a lot of positive. Some anglers didn't like the idea of opening a water and not allowing harvest. Anglers were concerned with, deeply hooked fish that had to be returned to the water, but that is not what this proposal is all about. This is strictly opening up what will be 107 lakes and ponds to fishing for 365 days a year, rather than have those 107 waters closed for the 19 days. We no longer have to exempt certain waters for early season fisheries, such as Lake Hopatcong and some others. So this just simplifies things. If it's a lake or pond that's trout stocked, it will be open for fishing and for immediate harvest. But we'll get to those regs in a moment. Those of you that might be concerned with the tradition of open day, kind of hold tight, because we're going to preserve the same preseason closures and traditional opening day on all rivers and streams. Cormorants. Yes, cormorants. Definitely a hot topic for Fish and Wildlife and anglers alike. For the last 10 years or so, it's been a very hot topic. Anglers being very concerned when they have to sit back for up to 3 weeks, and the cormorants are having a field day, feasting upon stock trout after stock trout after stock trout. Here, one large advantage we see here is, although we're not removing the cormorants, we can't really manage them to in that fashion. But what we can do is level the playing field. So anglers will no longer have to wait 1 to 3 weeks to seek the trout that they're watching the cormorants devour helplessly in front of them. Another aspect here, and this is more about fishing participation, is that we see poor weather on opening day can really be a hindrance, right? So a lot of folks who are not the most avid anglers, but only go on opening day, can get very discouraged with opening day bad weather, and they may not even return for that season. So rather than have all of our eggs in the one basket, such as what you would have on 8 o'clock Saturday morning, here we are kind of spreading that wager across a 3-week period, where you don't have to wait for opening day. You have a nice day in late March. Just go out there and enjoy the resource. Go ahead and fish. This is a popular proposal within our conservation police officers. They don't enjoy kicking people off of the water. So the notion of an angler or a family of anglers fishing during that traditional preseason closure on lakes and ponds, we understand that they just want to get out there and enjoy nature. They want to take advantage of like an unseasonably nice day, and law enforcement's pleased with this, because they would rather spend time teaching a kid how to identify a fish, or helping putting a worm on a hook, things of that nature. So this legitimizes the sport of fishing during those 3 weeks and makes it legal in those waters. Harvest will be allowed, as I mentioned. There was an early consideration to make this proposal a catch and release only season, but through many consultations, conversations, surveys, the best combination of this here is to just open it up and allow some harvest. But it's not complete unbridled harvest. It's not the full 6 fish per day. This creel limit will go from 0 during those 3 weeks to 2. And I will talk more about that shortly. So yes, during those 3 weeks prior to opening day, the creel is 2 fish per day on lakes and ponds. So in regards to the regs, this folds across the seasons here. We would be looking to reduce what is currently like our summer, fall, and winter creel limit, which is currently 4 fish per day. We're looking to decrease that to 2 fish per day. So if you look down, you'll see what our existing regulations look like. You're probably very, very familiar from seeing that in the digest. You have 3 different time frames. Nearly 200 waters are closed to all fishing. And then there's a subset of exemptions. Let's focus on the upper half of this next slide here. So we would subdivide our waters into either lakes and ponds or rivers and streams. We simplified the regulation for all lakes and ponds where they never close. This is just the summary. The minimum size would remain 9 inches, and your daily limits from January 1 until until 7:59 of opening day, those creel limits, which we would traditionally call the fall creel limit, is proposed to drop from 4 fish to 2. From opening day through May 31st, it would return to 6 fish, and then June 1st through December 31st, which would wrap all the way around to the following opening day, it would go back from 4 fish down to 2. There was a lot of discussion over the years. This proposal has come up, has not gone through, but this is something we like to move on at this point. One of the main reasons is that our fall program, a number of years ago, turned into a program in which we're stocking large trout. Many of them are 14 to 16 inches, and at the lower numbers that are administered in the fall, that resource can get depleted pretty quickly. So we're looking here to extend that angling opportunity. Jumping down to rivers and streams, not much of a change, but you'll just see there that the daily creel limits outside of the trout season from April 11th. In this particular year, opening day for 2026 is going to fall on April 11th. But from that time until May 31st, it'd be 6 fish. Fall and winter trout stocking program. You'll see kind of 2 columns there describing our current fall program and our current winter program. Although this is not a fish code issue, not something that we have to go through this process to do, it's still a significant change to the program that we are also excited about. So the current program, you'll see the statistics there, and basically all we're looking to do is in that action box, and it's to combine the 2 programs. And essentially we'd be moving the 4,000, approximately 4,000 trout in 18 lakes and ponds from that time frame of the week, the Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We're just going to move them forward into that 2nd and 3rd week of October to merge them with the fall program. Another component to this that is going to make this popular program hopefully even more satisfying is we're looking to expand this revised program with the addition of approximately 5,000 trout. So you'll see that our fall program currently consists of 21,000 fish. The current winter program is 4,000 fish. When you add them together, that's 25,000. And we're looking for approximately another 5,000 fish that we can produce to increase the program to a combined 30,000. And we haven't decided exactly how those additional 5,000 trout are going to be used. but we're certainly leaning towards adding new waters as opposed to just increasing the stocking densities. Moving on to the next slide, trout stocking boundary changes. These are just expansion of opportunity for anglers based on either newly acquired public land or different management of that land. So we're looking to extend the boundary of the Lopakon Creek downstream to the Delaware River. The Pompton River, we're looking to extend the upper boundary upstream for approximately 2 miles. And on the Raritan River North Branch, we're looking to add the Nadarar County Park. This is, for some of you that haven't been there, this is that former King of Morocco property. Beautiful landscape, beautiful water, and that should become a popular fishery. On the Pequannock River, we've heard from anglers over the years how valuable the wild brown trout fishery is there, and we completely agree. So here we're looking to simply add additional protections for the existing wild brown trout within our trout stock section. So we're going to change the general trout regs section to the strategy of trout stocked wild brown trout managed, which doesn't change anything for the angler who enjoys fishing for the stocked rainbow trout, but what it does is it increases the minimum size of brown trout on that river from 9 to 12 inches, and no more than 2 of your creel can be brown trout. So this is an existing regulation on about 5 other waters. So we're not creating a new regulation set, we're just adding this section of the Pequannock over to that existing regulation set, and we feel as if this will be a popular change. Finally, the last trout related here is in regards to lake trout. Those of you that have attended Round Valley Trout Association meetings or these public forums over the years, you've heard a lot about lake trout management, and I'm going to boil it down for you kind of simply and quickly here. The graph in this slide here, I hope it's large enough for you to see. If it's not, you may be able to expand your screen off to the right to fit the full screen. But basically, we're seeing a downward trend in the condition of the lake trout in both Round Valley Reservoir and Merrill Creek Reservoir. So over time, the populations are expanding, forage bases are stressed and depleted, and we're looking to allow more angler harvest. So at Merrill Creek, the proposal is to allow for the harvest of 2 lake trout from 15 to 24 and 2 lake trout greater than or equal to 24. And at Round Valley, similarly, we're looking to allow the take of 8 lake trout from 15 to 24 inches and 1 greater than or equal to 24. The other component here is just to remove the catch and release season at both reservoirs. That catch and release season, was during the spawning period for lake trout, but as we would like to more aggressively manage these 2 water bodies and encourage angler harvest, this reproducing population, we don't feel as if it needs those additional protections during the spawn. So that concludes the trout portion of the presentation. If any of you have any questions, please raise your hand.
All right, I have 2 raised hands. I'll call on Doug Taylor first. I'm going to click on you, and you'll probably have to unmute yourself on your end to ask your question, Doug. All right?
And Doug, as you're getting set up, one thing I just want to mention is, we're interested in comments too. I keep focusing on questions, but we want to hear, whether you support these proposals, if there's any you have concerns with. So by all means, the public participation is something we greatly value here. So don't just limit yourself to questions. If there's something you like, we want to hear about it. If there's something you don't like, we also want to hear about it.
Doug dropped out, so I'm going to call on James.
No, I didn't.
There, Doug. Okay.
No, I did not
Doug.
drop out. Okay. The question I have is concerning the combining the winter and fall. What happens is in South Jersey, we're looking at Hamilton Lake, Grenlock Lake, and Hamilton Lake. They're stocked at 2 different times of the year, or I should say 2 different parts of the season. Are we going to be looking at more than 1 stocking at those lakes, or are we just going to combine all the fish into 1 section? Because what it does allow is, because of a mild winter that we've had, it allows people to get out closer to the Thanksgiving season and also or in the fall season. So it's actually two that are provided for, not just one.
Yeah, at this point in time, we were not looking to stock any of those waters with, with additional fish or more than one time. So we were looking to stock all the fish during those second and third weeks of November.
But this, to me, defeats
I
your
mean,
purpose of
October.
trying to get. I'm sorry. It tends to defeat your goal of trying to get more people out to fish. When you stretch it out, more people go out to fish than just by staying one stocking or in one stocking in one area.
Yeah. Thank you for the comment. Definitely point well taken.
Just something that you might want to consider for next year then.
All right, thank you, Doug. We're gonna move on down the list. Next person up is Carol. I think I see you on my list as well. Carol, if you're unmuted, go ahead and ask your
Yeah,
question as well.
thanks. Yeah, thank you. I'm unmuted. I just had a question. I live in Burlington County, and there's a lake next near me. It's called Pemberton Lake, also referred to as Lake Pemberton. Generally, in that lake, there's been an algae bloom issue, and it's advised, on the signs there that we not eat any fish in the lake. So when it's stocked, I don't know how to feel about that. Is it okay to eat the stocked trout in a lake that has generally been marked as not a healthy lake?
Chris, would you like to jump in and talk about Pemberton?
Yeah, I can. I mean, generally speaking, with the HAB advisories, I mean, that's one of our locations. We've had a persistent harmful algal bloom.
Yeah,
This is something that's happening throughout the state. So when we do have there's different advisory statuses. There could be a warning. There's an advisory. When it does reach the highest advisory, then
yeah,
I think then it would kick in where would it be advisable not to consume the fish. But we also take those HABs into account when we do the stocking. So if there is an instance where we have an ongoing, persistent, high algal count, then those locations would not also be stocked
okay,
if it's a problem.
yeah. All right, no, thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and so so our staff go through there's a HAB dashboard within NJDEP website. We go through, and if there's an active HAB at a high level during the spring trout stocking program, we're
Yeah,
gonna pull it from the list. Fortunately,
okay,
fortunately, many of the HABs, although it's not a rule, many of the HABs occur, more like summertime, late summertime. As you
great,
come out of the winter and into that spring, you typically aren't having those HABs in a lot of waters. And by
okay, yeah,
then, and in a place like
oh,
Pemberton, the trout don't survive into the summer. So, Chris may know this better than me, but there's a good chance that the HABs and the trout don't coexist at the same time in Pemberton.
I see. Okay, no,
Yeah,
thank you.
that is correct.
Looks like there's a Paul
All right.
McGee.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. Yeah, Paul McGee, go ahead, sir.
Yes, years ago I used to trout fish opening day at Strawbridge Lake when I was younger. The lake no longer stocked with trout. I was just curious if that's ever on your list of small ponds or if there's a reason it's not stocked. And another question I had was the breeder fish that you stocked for a while. Are we going to continue to do that?
Yeah, I'll jump in and answer the question about the breeders. So yeah, we still have what we call the bonus broodstock program. Every preseason, we stock approximately 9 or 10 waters throughout the state. They're typically small ponds that have great angling participation, and we rotate those waters. So if a water body of your interest has been in that program, chances are within the next 3 or 4 years, we rotate and get back to it.
Okay.
And then there are broodstock mixed in at a low percentage across all loads during the early part of the season. As far as Strawbridge, Chris, is that yours as well?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as Strawbridge, I believe that has not been part of the program since I've been, with the agency. So it's been quite some time since it was part of the program. And I mean, we constantly are evaluating ponds, to add to the list, as Shawn just went through earlier in the presentation, with I think the 26 new water bodies, three of which are in Burlington County. I think it's three. So, in that time, this round of additions, we're really looking for, really small, small water bodies that people are going to have really good catch rates. Strawbridge is a little on the bigger side. It's a long lake. It's kind of, I think it's three smaller lakes with two spillways, three spillways.
Right.
We recently did an electrofishing survey there looking at the bass population. So we are looking at that water body. We are evaluating it for other considerations. It just isn't, on our trout list, at this point.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to keep the meeting moving along. If you have any questions, we hope to get back to you later in the program here. So as we move into some other fisheries, we have some additions to our lunker bass regulation program, and that is Merrill Creek and Round Valley Reservoir. Okay, so currently both are managed under the existing general bass regulations with a minimum size of 12 inches, daily limit of 5. This provides some additional protection, increasing that minimum size to 15 inches and decreasing the daily limit to 3. And we're doing this to maintain excellent quality bass fisheries in these two waters. Conservation regulations, bass and panfish. This one definitely falls under the category of regulation simplification. So you'll see here, we have these very specific regulations for only two waters, Riker Lake and Rainbow Lake. And what we're looking at, basically when I mentioned the lunker bass regulations and saying that that's to maintain the quality of those fisheries, Riker Lake and Rainbow Lake, you don't particularly have, we'll say, unique enough circumstances to deserve specific unique regulations. So we're looking to simplify things and just change the fishing regs there back to the statewide fishing regs at those two waters. When anglers, the other part of that is when anglers see a special regulation, in our digest, they assume that there's something really unique or really special about those waters. So almost from like a marketing standpoint or public relations, we get a lot of questions about those waters, about of why, and the real answer is they're not that unique. Okay, something as an entirely different topic here within freshwater fisheries is the recent listing and upgrading of several of our freshwater fish to the endangered non-game species list. So prior to January 6th, there were federal listing of both Atlantic and short-nosed sturgeon, and those have moved to the state listing. But what we're looking at here are these species here getting those extra protections. So as an angler, many of you may not have ever seen these unique species, some of which, such as the black-banded sunfish. The New Jersey pinelands is actually the global stronghold for this species. Some of you may think that looks like something like an angelfish or a tropical fish, but no, that's a native New Jersey species that is faced with many threats. Land use changes, non-native predators, water quality changes, habitat loss, and connectivity loss. So this is a suite of fish. The two listed as endangered are the bridle shiner and the iron color shiner. They're a small minnow that doesn't really get over like an inch and a half. They form large schools. Historic records and numbers indicated they were widely distributed and incredibly abundant. But with land, like I said, with these stressors to these fish over the years, They've become fragmented in their populations. The size of their populations have drastically decreased, and we're looking to utilize some of the status changes here to bring additional focus on management, to provide regulatory protections for these fish. Now, in regards to the angler, one of the first things you might be thinking is, how is this going to affect my fishing? What am I not going to be allowed to do? And I can assure you that the fish on the screen here, it was previously illegal, for anglers to take these fish, or hobbyists or anyone, without like a scientific collecting permit. So none of these fish were legally taken as bait, within the last 10 years or so. None of them, could legally be held in your aquarium or anything of that nature. So this is not something that should really affect the anglers. But, as a conservationist, I wanted to share this with you because I think the unique, fauna that we have in our state is something to celebrate. And these may be some photographs that you weren't aware, that might be coinciding with you as you're wading in the stream or floating on the lake. So here, this went into effect, as mentioned, January 6th, and we had to make some minor changes to the fish code just to get everything in compliance. A couple other administrative changes here, not all that interesting, but just wanted to mention is that, scientific names and common names change over time with new taxonomic groupings. So the American Fisheries Society in 2023 released a book entitled Common and Scientific Names of Fishes in the United States, etc. So there's some adjustments to the fish code to get our verbiage up to speed with the scientific community. No impact to anglers here. This is some housekeeping on American eel. The ASMFC regulates American eel, amongst other marine and anadromous fish, catadromous fish. So here within our regulations, we previously were in alignment with ASMFC management plan with a daily limit of 25 American eels taken by rod and reel. But we're cleaning up the bait fish section. American eel can also be taken as bait fish, and they're currently listed with a daily limit of 35. And we're just looking to bring that in alignment with the broader management plan. So this hasn't been something that anglers pointed out to us, but we, as going through the code with a fine-tooth comb, we found that we just need to get those in compliance with one another in agreement. Invasive species regulations. Weren't looking to do any major changes at this point in time. We currently regulate 13 species or groups of species as potentially dangerous animals, aka invasives, and our current regulations prohibit the possession or release of live, potentially dangerous animals, including fish. So in this proposal, we are adding the most recent invader, the freshwater drum. In addition to that, bow fishing is allowed in New Jersey. We're not looking to change that in any way. We're actually looking to utilize bow fishing anglers to possibly give us some control over the emerging and another fairly recent invader, the blue cat. So our current regulations allow, we identify the species in which you are allowed to shoot with a bow and arrow. Blue catfish were not on that list, so now we're adding them to that list. There was a recent successful effort in Maryland where bow fishermen, they harvested a very large number, providing that ecological service to us to curb the population. And this regulation is just going to allow all catfish species to be taken by a bow. It's hard enough to identify some of these when you have them in your hand, let alone when you're in a boat with spotlights down hovering above them. So we know that you as an angler can identify a catfish, but getting deeper into the species level might be difficult. So we did not want to make it, illegal to shoot a channel catfish or a white catfish or a bullhead if you were accidentally going after an invasive, such as a blue cat or a flathead. And the final proposed change here relates to snapping turtles. Yes, snapping turtles are a species regulated within the fish code. Currently, anglers are allowed, if you have a fishing license, you're allowed to take one per day during the season. And if you are interested in harvesting more than that one per day, anglers have been allowed to apply for a commercial harvest permit. The life history of snapping turtles is such that they're long-lived. It takes a lot of reproductive effort and success to get from laying of the eggs to incubation of the eggs to the hatchlings emerging to those hatchlings surviving to adulthood. And there are many threats, believe it or not, for snapping turtles in our state. Road crossings, for example, contribute a very high number of mortalities to snapping turtles. And a species that has this reproductive strategy and life history that can really take a number on them. So what we're looking to do here is limit the commercial harvest to some degree to prevent the overexploitation of snapping turtles. So currently, commercial harvesters with a valid permit are allowed to take an unlimited number of snapping turtles. And we're looking to institute a daily limit of 10 per day and an annual harvest limit of 250 per commercial permittee. For both commercial and recreational harvest, we're shortening the season to curtail harvest to some degree. So we're dropping the early harvest window of April 1st through May 15th, and where many snapping turtles may be breeding as well, but we want to protect those individuals. But we're going to retain the core season from July 15th through October 31st. This is a reduction of the season from 156 days to 108. An additional protection that's being added is the carapace length. That's the shell length of snapping turtles. The minimum size is currently 12 inches. We're increasing that to 13, and we're making it easier to measure. We're clarifying that rather than a straight length shell, we're looking at a curved carapace length. It's just easier to measure in the field. And we're also clarifying that any harvest of snapping turtles in New Jersey, whether it's for recreational or commercial, that harvest is intended for personal consumption only. And with the commercial license, you are intended to sell those animals, to a restaurant or another supplier. But we want to clarify that they're not intended to be kept and not allowed to be kept for personal possession, for example, as pets. So with that brings me to the conclusion of the Fish Code proposal. And we're going to wrap up the meeting now with open questions and comments. At this point, please keep them entirely linked to the presentation that we gave you here tonight. I want to get through as many of those relevant questions or comments as possible. And if we have time at the end, we'll take some general questions.
All right, I see several hands popping up. I'm just going in the order they appear. Raymond Jameson, go ahead and ask your questions, sir.
Yes, sir. Can you go back to the the lunker bass screen, please?
Sure thing.
Okay, there you go. So does that mean that you can only have 3 fish over 15 inches out of Merrill Creek, correct?
Correct. Combined between the two species.
Okay. Oh, large and smallmouth.
Correct.
Okay. So you can have fish under 15?
No, no, no. The only fish that you're allowed to take are, it's a combined creel, so it doesn't matter if they're all largemouth, all smallmouth, or a combination. They have to be at least 15 inches, and you cannot take more than 3 of them.
Okay, now that's mean you harvest of that those species at that length, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm a tournament fisherman. So is it permissible to catch, measure, and then release fish under that 15 at Merrill Creek?
I'm going to pass this one along to Chris Smith. He institutes um, our tournament permit system and is a resident bass fishing expert.
Okay.
So yeah, you would, if you were fishing what we would call either a measure tournament or a paper tournament, that yeah, you can catch and measure all you want. It's just what you're able to have in your possession. So if you're fishing a normal live well tournament where you're going to catch them, keep them live in the live well, weigh them at the end of the day, you can
Okay.
only have 3 fish.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
In the
Yep.
in the live well.
In the live well, you can have 3 fish. If you're doing a kayak tournament where they measure all the fish, you can catch as many as you want.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
There was a rumor floating around the tournament scene that New Jersey is going to require a payment of $120 or $125 to fish a tournament in one of the parks in the state. Is that correct?
There is currently within state parks, they do currently have a permitting system. It is a special use permit in order to have a fishing tournament at one of their locations. I'm not exactly sure the fee for it, but I'm not exactly sure what the fee is.
How can an organization find that information?
It's right on their website. So whichever one of the state parks that you want to hold a tournament at, whether it's Spruce Run or say Parvin down in Salem County, which is a
Or
popular location.
or Hopatcon?
Well, Hapatcon is different. Hapatcon, there's other launching facilities, so you don't have to go out of the state park. So
Correct.
right, you could go out of Lees County Park, which would not
That's
fall under state park regulations. So it would be whatever Lees ends up charging for a tournament.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to check and see and verify that rumor or not. So
Yeah, the only one that has been a major issue in the last year or so is at Round Valley. Most tournaments go out of our boat ramp, which we issue a WMA tournament permit for. However, State Parks is now also requiring additional insurance in order to have a tournament there. So we're now directing everybody, once you obtain a permit through us, we're now directing to State Parks through Round Valley in order to acquire the necessary permitting.
is there that same issue with Spruce Run?
Yes, Spruce Run is solely state parks. We don't handle any of the permitting there. So you would have to contact them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Alex Garris, Alex, are you there?
Okay, I joined very late, but I saw the snapping turtle thing. Wouldn't that allow just a few guys to pretty much wipe out the breeding populations in large areas? I mean, 250 per season?
Yeah, so it's definitely a regulation that we've been crafting, we've been working through. There are very few individuals who currently have permits, and the one thing that I may not have emphasized was the current regulations curtail new applicants to folks who had acquired a permit between a particular time frame. And within this new regulation set, we're looking to we're not allowing new applicants. We're allowing those who have, previously applied for and, collected snapping turtles under the commercial harvest to continue to participate. But within this proposal, if you didn't previously apply for a permit within the last like 3 or 4 years through the year 2025, we're accepting no new applicants beyond that time frame.
Okay, maybe I missed the earlier part of it.
Yeah. But yes, I think if not closely looked at, snapping turtle populations could continue to be exploited. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to, be reviewing those waters that have excessive take, and moving forward, we may not issue permits for waters, that we think are in which there's excessive harvest taking place. So we're moving in that direction.
All right, very good.
Thank you, Alex. Go ahead and mute yourself, and we'll continue down the list. And just a quick PSA, please stay close to your computer, folks. When I do call on you, you can unmute yourself in a reasonable amount of time and ask your question. So continuing down the list, Drew Jacobs. Drew, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Drew. Thank you.
Yeah, my question was about the pine barren sunfish. So I'm, as a resident and as an angler, super supportive of all conservation work for wild native fish species. I was wondering if there was any sort of hatchery resources going into perhaps rearing these fish to, boost their populations a bit in those threatened areas. Thanks.
Sure. No, great question. Currently, there are none. As of right now, our 2 hatcheries, are highly successful at raising, sport fish, but there are currently no operations to raise any of these species of conservation need. It's definitely something we will be taking a look at in upcoming years. Maybe at one of our later meetings, you might hear more about some hatchery improvements that we're looking to make, where we may take on and try to gain capacity to be able to raise some of these fish species. As of right now, like some of these fish, like black-banded sunfish, are locally abundant when you find them. Slimy sculpin are locally abundant when you find them. It's just that in many cases, reintroduction of them in other places can be quite difficult because the threats that have removed them often still exist. If the water quality is not there, if the habitat's not there, if the non-native predators are there, just simply reintroducing them isn't necessarily going to result in any significant improvement. But to answer your question, no, we currently don't have any rearing programs for any of these species. But we're interested in exploring that down the road.
I see one more hand. Doug Taylor, you're the last hand I haven't called on, so go ahead and unmute yourself, Doug, and ask your question.
Okay, it's coming unmuted. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Doug.
Rowan's Pond. It's considered part of the Fish and Wildlife Management area, wildlife area. Access to the perimeter of that pond is being limited because there's a large amount of bushes that are growing at the water's edge. Who would be taking care of that access or cutting those bushes back?
Chris, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure, I can. Yeah, so that's handled by our Land Management Bureau. We constantly are evaluating our trout stock locations, which that is one of. We did some habitat management there in the past. I believe that those bushes were cut back some a few years back, and I assume they grew back. There was some vegetation.
Definitely.
Right, there was some vegetation that was an issue, and we did look into doing some herbicide applications in there. So we can take a look at it again for this upcoming season and make recommendations to our Bureau of Land Management if we feel that it's limiting our angler utilization of the water body.
Okay, the other one deals with Grenlock Lake. That place is starting to silt in a lot because of beavers that are in the stream above it and causing the lily pads to grow at the boat launch area. Who should the township seek help from? Because it is a township park. It's not a state park.
I can answer that too. I mean, it's right. It is Washington Township that has the pond, so I mean, contacting them would be the best course of action. Um,
But who would
anytime.
they contact to get help, to seek help?
I mean, the permitting through the department, through DEP for doing the dredging. But any dredging projects are extremely expensive. The disposal of the sediments
Okay.
is very, very costly, and we're all running it. All agencies are running into that issue right now. Sedimentation in ponds is a continuing, ongoing problem, and it's a very costly problem to deal with.
All right, I'm going to jump in at this
Go ahead.
point. We only have a couple minutes left. The meeting is scheduled to end at 8:30. At this point, I guess I'd like to take the opportunity to ask for you to just weigh in, jump in real quick and let us know if there's any of those proposals in particular you like, or if there's any you don't like. So if you could please hold any other questions, just want to kind of get a feel, take the temperature of the room here. So let us know right now if there's things you like, if there's things you don't like, and try to be concise because I'd like to get as many positions as possible.
All right, I see a recent hand from Mark P. Go ahead if you have a comment about the regulations, Mark.
Yes, being a bass fisherman and the non-closed trout season is phenomenal because there's so many lakes that I like to fish during that closed season and we're not allowed on. So I think that's a great idea.
That was part of the intention, Mark. Glad to make you happy.
Thank you.
Tony Y, your hand is up. Go ahead, Tony.
Yes, I'd also like to show my appreciation for the non-closed lakes. I'm a pan fisherman, and that's some of the best times to catch crappie and perch. So thanks. Hopefully we can get it passed.
Sounds good. Yeah, those comments you guys just made, they were in an earlier version of presentation. I'm not sure how those bullets fell out of it, but that was definitely part of the intention.
Okay, this is Doug again. Just a thing with the winter fall, combining the two I think is detrimental to the trout and for getting the public out at different times of the year. It might be better just to go back to the winter and a fall type of stocking.
Yeah, so part of that, and I meant to mention this earlier, part of the thought process there is that, for the masses, weather is generally more conducive to fishing, in middle October as opposed to late November. So, there's certainly going to be trade-offs in most of the decisions we make and most of the things that happen. But one of the primary thoughts there is that more New Jersey anglers are likely to participate in the sport, like I said, when the weather is a little nicer in mid-October. And the thought is there of there being a significant drop-off as conditions get more harsh. And initially, that winter program was intended primarily for ice fishing, but due to a number of factors that we don't have the time to get into now, that program that used to be in like early January, that we kept sliding that back to the fall, but that's no longer a thing. So thank you. I think we have time for a couple more comments if anybody has them.
Just a quick one dealing with Grenlock Lake and a township. Are there any grants available to help with dredging or taking care of the beaver?
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if anybody else was going to jump in on that. At times, maybe you can reach out to Chris Smith here. He can put you in touch with our wildlife management. At times, we can guide trappers to a particular water body if it's an issue. So that's something we can explore. But like I said several times, let's talk more about the fish code here for the remaining minutes.
Thank you, Doug. I see George Casa. Go ahead, George.
Yes, I just wanted to express my strong support for the actions taken on the threatened and non-game species list. I think that's very important and overdue. So thank you for that.
Thanks, George.
I see one more hand. Charlie Rayner. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to, thank you for this presentation. And I just wanted to say I support every single one of the trout fishing regulation changes that were proposed here this evening for 2026. I'm a trout fisherman everything from, opening up the ponds for fishing prior to opening day, to um, reducing the harvest of the trout from 4 to 2 starting June 1st, moving the November stockings into October to make that, more available, and the changes to Round Valley and Merrill Creek regulations. I just wanted to say, I think they're all great ideas, and I just wanted to offer my support on every one of those regulations.
That's great to hear, Charlie. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shawn.
All right, so I think that brings us to conclusion here of the meeting. I hope you found it very informative. We enjoy spending this time conveying what we're doing, to you, the angler. As Kristen opened up the meeting, saying that we're looking to do some pretty simple things here. Provide species protection, provide opportunity for anglers, and try to simplify the regulations whenever possible. As we wrap it up, just please remember that you can reach out to us at any point in time. My email address, was up on the screen, quite a bit during those periods. I hope you wrote it down. Make sure you reach out to your regional fisheries biologist if you have any questions about why we do certain things, what's up and coming. And if you join late, make sure you go to our website. This will be posted within a few weeks, and you can kind of revisit. You can share it with a friend. You can point your buddies, that weren't able to make it to the meeting. And then, final thoughts there are those 2 additional meetings that we're having, the warm and cool water fisheries meeting in February, and then the annual trout meeting in March. We look forward to sharing more of what's going on and getting more feedback and having more interaction. So I just want to thank everybody, our staff, for participating. And if you can, just so people can see it, if I could ask all staff to just turn your cameras on now, just so the public can realize how many people it takes to put this together, collecting the data, formulating regulations, raising fish, stocking fish, getting information out to the public, enforcing regulations. So it takes a village, and I just want to show extreme support for our staff here, and thank you very much. All right, have a good night, everybody. Take care.